Welcome back to True Knowledge Preschool's Story Time with Miss McKenzie. Today's book is called Cindy Ellen, A Wild Western Cinderella. This is one of my favorite stories. I can't wait to read it to you. This book was written by Susan Lowell. She wrote the words, she's the author, and illustrated by Jane Manning. Jane drew the pictures. So let's see what happens in this story. Once there was a rancher who married for his second wife the orneriest woman west of the Mississippi. She was meaner than a rattlesnake and had 2 daughters who were the spitting image of her. The rancher also had a daughter who was just as sweet and gentle as could be. Her name was Cindy Ellen. So they're getting married. Here's the stepmother and the father, 2 stepsisters, and Cindy Ellen. Cindy was a pretty good cowgirl too. Riding her little gray horse, she wrangled and roped and galloped and loped with the best buckaroos on the range. But as soon as the wedding was over, that snaky old stepmother began to pick on poor Cindy Ellen. She was so good, she made her stepsisters look bad. So her stepmother made her do all the dirty work around the ranch. "Mend those fences, tend those cows," she would yell, "and shovel out that corral." The stepsisters never did a lick of work all day, but Cindy didn't dare complain to her daddy because his new wife wore the pants in the family. That means she makes all the rules, that stepmother. When her chores were done, the poor little girl used to sit down and rest among the ashes and cinders at the edge of the fireplace. So her older stepsister nicknamed her Cinderbottom. The younger stepsister called her Sanderella. But underneath her dirty old clothes, Cindy Ellen was as pretty as a peach. Look at this mean stepmother. Ugh, not nice. Then one day, the biggest cattle king for miles around invited all his neighbors to a 2-day celebration. First, a wild and woolly rodeo, then a square dance, a real Western fandango. Cindy's stepsisters puffed up like 2 turkey gobblers. Even though they couldn't ride, they decided to gussy themselves up, fit to kill and enter the rodeo. Nice, patient Cindy Ellen ironed their frilly shirts and frizzled their hair for them. "Don't you wish you could go, Cinderbottom?" sneered the older sister. "Oh, you're just poking fun at me," said Cindy sadly. "You're right," laughed the younger sister. "Nobody could tell you from a cloud of dust, Cinderella." Look at these mean stepsisters. As soon as they were gone, poor Cindy Ellen broke down and cried. Then suddenly she heard a noise outside, almost like gunfire, but not quite. It wasn't bang bang, it was more like bing bing. And there stood a little old lady with a golden pistol still smoking in her hand. "Who are you?" gasped Cindy Ellen. "Say hello to your fairy godmother, Sugarfoot," the old lady said. She twirled the pistol, slapped it back in its holster, and took a good hard look at Cindy. "What's the matter with you, honey? You're down and dirty as a flop-eared hound dog. Stand up straight, dust yourself off." "I want to go to the rodeo," sobbed Cindy Ellen. "Can you help?" "Maybe see, maybe no," said her fairy godmother. "Magic is plumb worthless without gumption. What you need first, gal, is some gravel in your gizzard. Grit guts, stop that tomfool blubberin', and let's get busy. Time's a-wastin'." She reached for her golden 6-gun, and Cindy yelled, "Don't shoot!" But her godmother had already fired straight up in the air. Well, look here, here's her fairy godmother, and here's Cindy Ellen. Glittery sparkles floated down from the sky and sprinkled Cindy all over with fairy dust. Instantly, her heart was filled with strength and happiness, and her rags turned into the finest riding clothes west of the east. A creamy white Stetson hat crowned her shining hair, golden buckskin chaps encircled her legs, and a pretty pair of cowboy boots hugged her feet like gloves. Buckled to the heel of each boot was a spur that shot out rays of fiery light. Those spurs were set with diamonds as big as sugar lumps. "Now," said her fairy godmother briskly, "where's that horse of yours?" She fired her magic pistol into the air. Zing! And Cindy's little gray horse became a little silver horse with softly sparkling coat. His hooves glittered as he pawed the ground. "Hit the trail, honey," the old lady said. "Remember, there ain't no horse that can't be rode, and there ain't no man who can't be throwed. And one more thing, get home by midnight, gal, or you'll be sorry." So there she is. That's Cindy Ellen in her really nice riding clothes. Over here is her silver pony. How pretty it is. When Cindy Ellen pulled up at the rodeo, everybody turned and stared at the dazzling stranger on the silver horse. The rich rancher's son, a rodeo champion by the name of Joe Prince, came forward wearing his biggest belt buckle and swept off his hat. "Pleased to meet you, ma'am," he said. "Likewise," said Cindy. So here's Joe Prince and here's Cindy Ellen. They're at the rodeo. Just then, Cindy's older stepsister rode a bucking bronc into the arena, and before she could say whoopsie-daisy, that horse wrinkled his spine, boiled over, and sent her chasing the clouds way up in the sky. Then she bit the dust. That means she fell off the horse. Next came the second stepsister, but she couldn't ride a rail fence in a stiff breeze, and pretty soon she was eating gravel just like her sister. Cindy Ellen helped the stepsisters up and brushed them off, but they never even recognized her. Then she remembered her godmother's gift of gumption, and she gave Joe Prince a big daredevil grin. "My turn," said Cindy Ellen. Here's the stepsister that fell off her horse. Here's the other one. They're not very good at riding horses. Cindy Ellen climbed aboard a salty bronc with a belly full of bedstrings, a real rip snorter. She touched him with her diamond spurs, and first he tried to crow hop, then he cat-backed, and he sunfished, and he windmilled, and he jackknifed, but Cindy stuck to the saddle like a postage stamp. "Ride 'em, cowgirl!" cried the crowd, and Cindy Ellen was the winner with every curl in place. Next, with a figure eight, a butterfly, and a wedding ring, she won the trick roping event. And then she and her little horse really burned the breeze. They kicked the jackrabbits right off the trail. They left their shadows 20 miles behind them, and they won the horse race. They're really fast. They even beat Joe Prince. But Joe didn't seem to care. He rode herd on Cindy Ellen right up to 11:45 at midnight. She then suddenly remembered her godmother's warning and went galloping home. Remember, she can't stay till midnight because then her clothes turn back to rags. Here's Cindy Ellen riding the bucking bronco. Here's her trick roping. And I think over here, she's racing, and she won. She's really good at riding horses. By the time she got there, her fine duds had shriveled into sorry rags again, but she still had plenty of gumption. After a while, her stepsisters hobbled in, all stove up from the rodeo. "Ha ha, you missed the champion cowgirl," the older sister sneered. "Nobody knows her name or where she disappeared to." "And that old Joe Prince is eating his heart out," said the younger one. "I bet she comes to the square dance tomorrow night," said Cindy with her new daredevil grin. The next evening, her stepsisters got all dressed up like a sore thumb and strutted away to the dance, leaving Cindy Ellen all alone, but not for long. So here they are talking about the rodeo, and then here's the stepsisters going to the square dance. "What's that?" she said, peeking out the window. "It looks like a cross between a comet and a dust storm. It sounded like silver bells mixed with dynamite." "Let's get crackin', Sweet Pea," shouted her fairy godmother. "You're late. Rustle me up the biggest, dustiest, lumpiest squash you can find." And zingo! The squash became a stagecoach. "Next we check the trap line," said her godmother. Quick as a wink, she turned 6 cactus mice into 6 dappled horses, a fat pack rat into a stagecoach driver, and a rough, tough, horned toad into a stagecoach guard, riding shotgun beside the driver. So this is all the things that the fairy godmother made with her magic. And here is the horned frog that she's going to turn into the guard. She's getting her ready to go to the dance. "But what about my ugly clothes?" asked Cindy. The old lady answered with a blast of fairy dust that melted into a dress that shone like the sun, the moon, and all the stars together. The skirt floated over petticoats as soft and puffy as summer clouds. A rainbow of jewels glowed around Cindy Ellen's neck, and the little diamond spurs sparkled once more upon her boot heels. "Thank you, ma'am," she cried. The fairy godmother blew the smoke from her pistol, holstered it, and dusted off her hands. "Remember, Miss Cindy, pretty is as pretty does," she said. "Magic can backfire, midnight or bust." Cindy promised, and the stagecoach rumbled away. Look how pretty she looks for the dance. And here they're going. They're headed to the dance. When Cindy Ellen arrived at the Cattle King's square dance, the fiddlers were tuning up for a toe-tapping jamboree. Joe Prince reached for Cindy's hand the instant he laid eyes on her. "Buckle on your partners, folks," he called, "and tell them to hang on. Let's shake our hooves like lightning until the early dawn." And Cindy answered, "Hurry up, cowboy, don't be slow. All a Monday left and do-si-do." Hand over hand and heel over heel, Joe and Cindy danced the daisy chain, the whirl-away, the curly-cue, and the grand sachet. They made their feet go whickety-whack. "Swing 'em, boys," cried Cindy, "and do it right." And Joe called back, "Swing those girls till the middle of night." There they're dancing. Twirling, swirling, Cindy Ellen lost track of time until all at once she heard the clock begin to strike 12. She hightailed it out of there lickety-split. "Whoa!" cried Joe, hot on her heels, but he couldn't catch her. One of the diamond spurs fell off Cindy's boot as she ran, and Joe picked it up carefully out of the dust. So here's Cindy Ellen running, and here's Joe Prince and the sparkly spur. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, not a particle remained of Cindy's gorgeous outfit, except for the second diamond spur, which she tucked away in her hip pocket. Pretty soon, word got out that the champion cowgirl was a wanted woman. She'd left Joe Prince so lovelorn that he was tracking her throughout the territory. And he vowed to marry the horsewoman whose boot fit the little diamond spur. He tried it on many a foot, but not one could wear it. So he's looking for Cindy Ellen, and he's trying on the spur on all these girls, but it doesn't fit on any of them. It'll only fit on Cindy Ellen's boots. At last he came riding up to Cindy's father's place. "Go shovel out that stable," hissed the stepmother, and Cindy reluctantly obeyed. First, Joe tried the diamond spur on the youngest stepsister, but no matter how he stretched the straps, her hoof was too big. The older stepsister had crushed her feet into little tiny itty-bitty boots, so just for an instant the spur almost fit. But then her boot split open and her toes popped out like puppies from a basket, and Joe Prince muttered, "Sorry," and headed for the door. So the spur doesn't fit on the stepsisters. "My turn," said a voice that stopped him in his tracks. It was Cindy Ellen. And although her mean stepsisters almost died laughing, Joe let Cindy have a chance, fair and square. And when he put the diamond spur around her dirty little boot, it fit perfectly. Then she pulled out the second diamond spur and buckled it onto her other boot. And at that very moment, Cindy's little horse gave a whinny, and everyone heard a noise. So here he is, trying on her spur, and it fits. And here's her stepmother and her two stepsisters. They're grumpy. "Wingo, wingo, kazing, let her rip," shouted Cindy Ellen's fairy godmother, brandishing her golden pistol. "Hold your fire," yelled Joe Prince, but glistening sparkles of fairy dust were already sprinkling down everywhere. They turned Cindy's clothes from cotton to satin, and they put quite a twinkle in Joe's eye. And Cindy's horse began to sparkle. "Yee-haw!" called the fairy godmother. Here's the fairy godmother, and Joe Prince, and Cindy Ellen. And she's wearing her pretty clothes again. So Cindy Ellen and Joe Prince got hitched and lived happily ever after in a ranch house full of love and rodeo trophies. Cindy's family moved to town where both stepsisters married city slickers. And Cindy's little horse kept his sparkling coat and his glittering hooves to the end of his days. And they all lived happily ever after. The end. I hope you liked my story today. Bye, friends.